Hey guys, it's Saga from TechWorks, and in this video, let us check out the cameras on this iPhone 12 Pro Max. According to Apple, they had a lot of space inside this phone, so they were able to pack in the most advanced cameras on any iPhones yet. To put this claim to test, and to see if these cameras are really as good as Apple claims them to be, we are going to check out over 175 image and video samples in this video. That's right, over 175 image and video samples. So go grab a snack or a cup of coffee because this is going to be a slightly longer video. I've already posted camera reviews of the iPhone 12 and 12 mini. So we know that the cameras on this year's iPhones are really good. So when Apple told us that the main camera on the 12 Pro Max has a 47% larger sensor, that got me very excited to check it out. Before we get to the image and video samples, let us check out the cameras that we are working with. If you want to skip this information, you can head straight over to the image samples from the chapters in the timeline of this video. iPhone 12 Pro Max gets a triple camera setup at the back and a separate LiDAR sensor just like the regular iPhone 12 Pro. But the overall size of the camera module is bigger on the iPhone 12 Pro Max. Primary camera gets a 12 megapixel sensor with f1.6 aperture and a 26mm lens. Physical size of this sensor is 47% larger than the 12 megapixel sensor on the iPhone 12, 12 mini and the 12 Pro. Each individual pixel has a size of 1.7 micron, which means it can capture a lot more information. This sensor also gets sensor shift optical image stabilization like in professional DSLR cameras instead of the more traditional optical image stabilization on the lenses. Second camera also comes with a 12 megapixel sensor with f2.4 aperture and a 13mm ultra wide angle lens. This is the same wide camera as the other iPhone 12 series phones. Third and the final camera at the back also gets a 12 megapixel sensor with f2.2 aperture and a 65mm telephoto lens. This lens gives us a 2.5x optical zoom compared to the main camera. So between the wide and the telephoto lens, we get a 5x optical zoom range on this iPhone 12 Pro Max. You can shoot 4K videos in 24, 30 and 60 FPS with all the cameras. This phone can also shoot 10-bit Dolby Vision HDR videos at up to 60 FPS. And just like before, you can also shoot 1080p videos in 30, 60, 120 or 240 FPS. At the front, we get another 12 megapixel true depth camera with f2.2 aperture and a 23mm wide lens. Other than the ability to shoot 10-bit Dolby Vision videos at up to 60 FPS and night mode portrait shots, Pro models also get Apple Pro RAW format support for taking images. With all the specifications out of the way, let us get to the image and video samples from this 12 Pro Max, and as always, I will start with the ones that I took in bright daytime. The main camera on this 12 Pro Max gets a 47% bigger sensor, but from the first look, it is difficult to tell straight away that these images are having any more details than the 12 megapixel images from the iPhone 12, 12 mini or the regular iPhone 12 Pro. That being said, there is no denying that these images are incredibly detailed. The newer processor puts all this information through the new image processing pipeline and it manages to deliver much sharper and detailed looking images. These images look very natural and not too overprocessed like from some other smartphones. There is a bit less contrast in most of the bright daylight images, so there isn't a lot of depth in these images at times. But there are enough details and information in these images, so if you wish to edit them and add a bit more contrast, you have the flexibility to make them look the way you want. Colors are a tad bit more saturated than the actual scene, which depending on your preference you may or may not like. Now the colors are not overly saturated like from some other smartphones, but they are just not exactly how the colors looked in real life. Gone are the days when the iPhones showed us the exact representation of the scene. Now, colors from all the new iPhones are boosted a bit to make them look more vibrant. This is not really a bad thing, as these colors are just looking amazing. In most of these images, they look so good and vibrant. The new Smart HDR3 algorithm delivers excellent results in these lighting conditions. Smart HDR and semantic rendering now recognize even more scenes and they work even better together, so resulting images in these challenging lighting conditions look better than ever. There are so many details in the shadows as they are brought up, and the highlights other than the actual sun in these shots are not blown out. You can clearly see the blue sky even with the sun being in the shot. At times, some of the HDR shots look a bit too overprocessed, which I don't really like. Coming to the close-up shots. Now since the sensor on the main camera is physically larger than the other iPhones, the background in these close-up shots get a very nice optical blur. And the subject closest to the camera, or the one that you tap on, is in perfect sharp focus. I also have the iPhone 12 and the iPhone 12 mini, so while using all these phones together, I found something interesting when it comes to taking close-up shots. The minimum focusing distance is much better on the iPhone 12 and 12 mini. While on the iPhone 12 Pro Max, you have to be further away from the subject for the main camera to accurately set the focus. After a lot of attempts, 12 Pro Max will focus on a very close object, but most of the times you will have to move a few centimeters or sometimes even a few inches from the subject for it to be in focus. Now this might not be a big problem for most of you, but for someone like me who likes to get in very close for taking these shots, it can get a bit annoying. You can zoom in a bit on the main camera to get a bit closer to the subject, but then you lose out on some of the details as it is digital zoom. And if you switch to the telephoto lens, the look of the image changes completely and the image is not of the same quality as it would have been from the main camera. I looked around a bit and this is an issue on the main camera of the iPhone 12 Pro Max. It is not present on the iPhone 12 mini, 12 or even the iPhone 12 Pro. So I guess it has to do something with this new bigger sensor on the main camera of this 12 Pro Max. Now all the images that we saw till now were taken with the main camera on the iPhone 12 Pro Max. While these images look really good, we also have a wide and a telephoto lens which lets us take images like these. The wide lens will let you show the scale or a different perspective of the scene, and the 2.5x telephoto lens lets you get closer to the subject to capture more details in it. Last year, I was convinced that I used telephoto lens more, but for 6 months when I used an iPhone without that lens, I never for once missed it. So while I might prefer wide lens more, it is always good to have multiple focal lengths on your phone as it helps you tell a different story. I thought 2x was the sweet spot for the telephoto lens, but this 2.5x zoom lens is also used for taking zoomed in portrait shots, and I actually prefer the look that this lens gives to the portrait shots. Now on the iPhone 11 Pro Max, when the lighting conditions were anything less than ideal, the phone switched to the digitally zoomed images from the main camera instead of using the telephoto lens. But on this 12 Pro Max, the telephoto lens is used in most of the lighting conditions unless it is too dark. Now I checked out the EXIF data of all these images and these are in fact captured with the telephoto lens. While I might not use all these lenses all the time, I'm still happy to get all 3 focal lengths on this phone. As always, Apple managed to match the color temperature and the white balance on these lenses perfectly, so you won't notice a big shift when you switch between these lenses. This is something that most other manufacturers fail to achieve. Now as good as the wide and telephoto lenses are, images from them are not as sharp or as detailed as the ones from the primary camera, because the sensor and the lens optics on these cameras are not as good as the ones on the primary lens. A bit later in the video, we will take a look at few more image and video samples from the telephoto and wide lens in indoor and lower lighting conditions. For now, let us move on to the portrait shots, which if you guys don't know is my favorite mode to shoot in on any smartphone. When you switch to the portrait mode, the camera will default to the 2.5x telephoto lens. And if you want to take wide portrait shots, you can tap on this button on the viewfinder. Personally, I love the look of these zoomed in portrait shots, and if you are taking portraits of just one person, you should always do it in this mode. The edge detection in these portrait shots is near perfect. On the iPhone 12 Pro's, LiDAR sensor helps the phone detect the edges in a much better way. Apple says that it is mostly used in lower light, but I found that the edge detection on the iPhone 12 Pro Max is much better than the 12 and 12 mini even in bright daylight. So I have a feeling that the LiDAR sensor is providing some assistance in daytime portrait shots as well. Just look at how good these portrait shots look. Edge detection, details, colors, dynamic range, everything is just amazing in these shots. I might go as far and say that these are the best portrait shots that I have seen come out of any smartphone. And yes, I am saying this after having used a lot of good smartphones that came out last year. These shots don't even take long time to capture like on some other phones. I just had to point this phone at someone and the portrait mode was ready with the real-time background blur being shown in the viewfinder. Even as you move indoors or in artificial lighting conditions, these portrait shots still look very good. Edge detection is still just as good and there is very little noise if any in these indoor portrait shots. Now thanks to the processing power of the new A14 Bionic chip and the new LiDAR sensor, you can take night mode portrait shots on the iPhone 12 Pro and the 12 Pro Max, and again, they look really good. Now the zoomed in portrait shots in these lighting conditions might look a bit grainy because that lens doesn't have the best sensor or the lens optics to take good images in lower light. But the low light portrait shots from the wide lens look absolutely amazing. Any noise in the background is blurred out, making these images look even better. Normally, I take a lot of portrait shots with my phones, but with the iPhone 12 Pro Max, about 70% of the images in my gallery are portrait shots. These images are that good. For taking portraits of objects, the story is same. Thanks to the LiDAR sensor, edge detection is very fast and near perfect. In some instances, if you feel that the edge detection is a bit off, or if the background needs to be blurred out a bit more or a bit less, just click on the edit button and play around with the f number, which is the aperture value, until you are satisfied with the background blur. Normally, iPhones really struggle a lot with edge detection when taking portraits of objects. but this time it gets it right almost every time. Moving to indoor, artificial and lower lighting conditions. Now this is where the 47% larger sensor on this camera should help it capture more light, resulting in better and detailed looking images. When there is a lot of ambient light around, like in these images, deep fusion mode kicks in instead of the night mode. Deep fusion mode takes a few long and short exposure images, combines them together and forms a much detailed image. This was available on the iPhone 11 series phones as well, but it works slightly better on this year's iPhone, and this time it is available on the wide lens as well. Now I'm not certain about it, and I didn't find any information about it on Apple's website, but I feel that the deep fusion mode is not available on the telephoto lens. If you get the deep fusion symbol while taking telephoto image, that is just a zoomed in image with the main camera, and I have confirmed this from the EXIF data of these images. And whenever the telephoto lens is active, the deep fusion symbol did not show up. Coming back to these low light shots in artificial light, look at how incredibly detailed they are. Couple of years ago, iPhones couldn't take such good or detailed images in artificial or lower light. But thanks to the newer processor and computational photography algorithms, now we get such good looking images from iPhones in these lighting conditions. Here are images from all three cameras in low light. The wide and zoomed in images, while still looking good, are not as detailed as the ones from the main camera. Since both these cameras have a narrow aperture, they don't let in a lot of light, so the phone has to increase the ISO for these cameras, which results in a bit of noise being added in those shots. The lens optics on those cameras are also not as good as the primary one, so these images have a bit less detail in them. For most of my low light shots, I did stick to the main camera and it performs exactly as I expected. In these lighting conditions, the regular iPhone 12 was switching to the night mode, but the 12 Pro Max with its larger sensor did not shift to the night mode and still managed to take such detailed images. For all these images, the 12 Pro Max thought that there is ample light, so it did not have to fire up the night mode. This is thanks to the larger sensor and optical image stabilization working together. Now I am surprised to see that when I switched to the telephoto lens, this phone actually captured the images with the telephoto camera instead of just zooming in the image from the main camera like the 11 Pro did last year. Again, I have checked the EXIF data of all these images multiple times to confirm that these images are in fact captured with the telephoto lens. Now these are some situations when the night mode kicked in on the main camera. When there is some light around, night mode does bring up the shadows, but it mostly works on making the other elements in the image look sharper and reducing the noise in the overall shot. This time, night mode is available on the wide lens as well, which makes the low light shots from the wide lens look so much better compared to the previous iPhones. Now just like the deep fusion mode, telephoto lens again doesn't get the night mode, so if you switch to the telephoto lens in lower light and if it shows the night mode option, then those images are just digitally zoomed in images from the main camera. I like that the night mode doesn't make the images look drastically different, and it just adds some light to the shot and reduces the noise, so the overall image still looks like it was taken at night. Normally, I don't take a lot of images with my phone as the light goes down, but with this iPhone 12 Pro Max and even with the iPhone 12 and 12 mini, I found myself taking a lot of images at night time. I just try not to switch to the telephoto lens too often in this light, but the normal and the wide lens, with and sometimes even without the night mode, do a very good job in these lighting conditions. Before we head over to the images from the front facing camera, let us take a look at few of the Apple ProRAW images and how far we can stretch them with editing. Now even without shooting in RAW, you could push iPhone images a lot in editing, while JPEGs from other phones start falling apart very soon. But with the ProRAW format, you can take these images to a whole new level in editing. Now ProRAW is Apple's RAW format, and the images while being RAW still have some amount of noise reduction and multi-frame adjustment already applied to them, which makes it easier for us to edit them in post. Look at how much information can be brought back into these images with just a few minutes of basic editing in Snapseed app on the iPhone itself. Now I'm not very good at editing images, so I'm sure someone who knows what they are doing will be able to extract even more information out of these ProRAW images. If you look at the ProRAW images captured in lower light, you won't see much difference between the two without zooming in. Now if you don't plan on editing your images after you have clicked them, I suggest you don't click RAW images at all, because the iPhone's internal processing will give you better looking images than the RAW ones. That brings us to the front facing camera. This is the same camera as we saw on the iPhone 12 and the 12 mini, so these selfies are exactly identical to the ones from those cameras. Everything is sharp, colors and skin tones are natural, and the overall selfies look pleasing in all lighting conditions. This year, Selfie camera also gets the deep fusion and night mode, so even if you are indoors or in lower light, you can now take good looking noise free selfies with these new iPhones. Portrait selfies are now even better than ever. Faces are in perfect sharp focus. Edge detection is better than any previous iPhones, And since the faces are in focus and everything else is blurred out, these portrait selfies look even sharper than the normal ones. I think the edge detection around my glasses and ears have got a lot better compared to last year's iPhones, and I really appreciate it a lot. Here's a video from the front-facing camera of the iPhone 12 Pro Max. You can see how it handles the overall colors of the scene, exposure, and stabilization when I'm walking around with it. I love the videos that the iPhones can take. You can shoot 10-bit HDR Dolby Vision videos at 4K 60fps, and these videos just look amazing. Now if you share these videos straight away, they might look overexposed on some platforms. So you will have to either convert these HDR videos to SDR before sending or uploading them somewhere, or if you add these videos to your SDR timeline in your editing software, you will have to pull the highlights down to see all the data that is there in the brighter parts. But in the end, these videos turn out amazing, and they look even better if you're watching them on an HDR display. Low-light videos from the main camera also looks really good. There is not a lot of noise or grain in these videos if there is some sort of ambient light around. Slow motion videos also look really good from these iPhones. These are 240fps slow motion videos in 1080p resolution. Now since the processor inside these iPhones is really powerful, I was expecting to get 4K 120 or 1080p 480fps slow motion modes on this year's iPhones. But just like last year, we are still stuck with 1080p slow motion videos in 120 or 240fps. These are without a doubt the best cameras on any iPhone yet, and Apple has managed to not only catch up to the competition but even get past most of the flagship smartphones, making the iPhone 12 Pro Max the best camera on any smartphone in the market right now. Cameras on this 12 Pro Max are a definite upgrade over any of the previous generation iPhones. And if you're serious about smartphone photography and if you want the absolute best camera on your phone, this is the one that you should go with. But if you already have the iPhone 11 Pro or the 11 Pro Max, and if you're wondering if you should upgrade, then I would suggest you to keep on using your iPhone for another year, as it has already got a very good set of cameras, and see what Apple has to offer next year in terms of cameras. If you're using an iPhone 10 or any phone from before that, and if you're looking to upgrade, the new iPhone 12 Pro Max will give you a much needed bump in the camera, battery, and overall performance in general. So after looking at over 175 image and video samples, what do you guys think about the cameras on this iPhone 12 Pro Max? Let me know in the comments. I for one am really impressed with these cameras. If you are planning to get this phone, I will really appreciate if you get it from the affiliate links in the description section. It helps the channel a lot at no extra cost to you. That is it for this video guys. Please hit the like button if you enjoyed this video and subscribe to the channel for more quality tech videos like this. You can also check out some of the other videos from this channel. This has been Sagar, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Take care.